guys, it's Reagan and we are going on a book shopping adventure. About a month or so ago, I did a rather large book on haul. So today is the day I'm gonna bring them to the used bookstore, get all that delicious bookish credit, and buy more books, and then do another book haul. It's the bookish cycle of life, if you will. And I always feel better when I kind of like exchange books for more books, because we all know I'm a little tight on space in this household. So I feel like I'm like doing a good deed, clearing off some space, and then I get a reward because I'm very reward oriented. I'm like a little child or a hamster. So without further ado, let's begin the book shopping adventure. So this is my bookish stack. We are going to see what this brings me. So let's pack them up. Packed up and ready to go. Clay is coming with me. He's the muscle of this operation. Obviously only Eras Tour playlist until May. So.
Leave this one away from.
Okay, hold on.
You have the cookies now?
That was a staged clip. To bring the goods in to the motherland, half price books. Gotta love it.
Love you, Han Solo. You were supposed to say I love you too. Like Harrison Ford said.
I'll open the door for you. Because you're the muscle. Goodbye, books. Let's shop. Bag was secured. I'm not gonna lie, I bought a lot of stuff. Hi guys, I'm officially back home, and wow, oh wow, did I go a little bit wild. That store credit honestly got me pretty far in half price books, and I'm really excited about all of the books I was able to pick up. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books I bought today, and then I also picked up 3 other books at a different half price books trip. So let's just go ahead and dive right into the haul portion of this video, which we love. The first book I picked up is The Trouble with Peace by Joe Abercrombie, and they were nice enough to put the price tag on the inside because this hard jacket's actually like a paper one, so it definitely would have ripped, and that's the type of customer service I just appreciate. Half price books, absolutely just 10 out of 10. This is the second book to the Age of Madness series, which is the spin-off series to the First Law trilogy, which I read last year and really enjoyed. I don't own book 1 at all, but when I saw like a beautiful edition copy of this second book in hardcover, I decided to buy it. I really love the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. It's grim dark, it's really character-led, and this sort of existing in the same world, especially following some characters that are connected to other beloved characters, really excites me. I didn't want to read too much into the synopsis because obviously spoilers, but I know we follow a character that is directly connected to Glocta, which I cannot wait for. Like, the concept of this has definitely sold me. I just feel like it's going to be full of some morally gray characters, some questionable decisions, and you know, just really gory. So I'm really looking forward to continue to grow my collection of Joe Abercrombie books, so I did buy this. The next book I bought is Actems Fury by Jim Butcher. This is the second book to the Codex Alera series, which is a high fantasy series by Jim Butcher I read and loved in high school. I also want to say it's like probably one of my first like high fantasy series I read the entirety of, and it blew my mind at the time. I thought it was so fun. I loved all the different settings. I enjoyed the characters, and for some reason I was just feeling really nostalgic recently, and I've been eyeing these at the used bookstore, and I kind of feel like I want to give it a reread and see if I enjoy it just as much the second time around. They didn't have the first book, but they did have a nice collection of these taller mass market paperbacks, which I like so much more. Just that little bit of extra height I feel like makes these so much more readable. But if you're not familiar with the Codex Alera series, it is a classic like chosen one trope. We follow a young man that basically lives in the middle of nowhere. He's kind of ostracized or made fun of in this village because he doesn't have any magical abilities abilities or power. Or does he? At the beginning of this book, he sets out on kind of a quest and journey. His life is turned upside down. The series also very much centers like a magic school academic series. It also involves a lot of like character growth and aging, which is a lot of fun. The overall concept of this fantasy world is basically Pokemon meets the Lost Roman Legion. There's lore around this series that somebody bet Jim Butcher that he wouldn't be able to write a series around super random concepts, so he asked for 2, and then he wrote the Codex Alera based on those 2 things. I just remember flying through these in high school. I loved the military aspect, the combat, all the different characters. I don't know. I just want to jump back into this world and see if it stands the test of time for me. The Furies of Calderon and just, again, the entire Codex Alera series is just one that really lives in my heart. So I couldn't resist. For $5, I'm going to be collecting these. Next is the only sequel I bought where I actually owned the first book, and that is The Dark Forest by Xian Liu. This is the second book to the 3 Body Problem sci-fi series, and they actually had the entire trilogy there, which was an absolute steal. I'm the annoying customer that just bought book 2, but I really want to get to the 3 Body Problem soon. Obviously, it's like a really lauded sci-fi story, really high concept, really complex, and like hard sci-fi from what I hear. So with that in mind, when I saw the sequel there for only $8.99, I decided to pick it up. It's also in like fantastic condition, which we also just love to see. The sci-fi trilogy, I believe, is like really centering like very specific concepts of humanity, portraying it at its best and worst. I also heard that the characters kind of stand in more so as concepts and actual people. So I'm just kind of really interested to see structurally how this is written and just experience the story in its entirety. The next book I picked up is The Bird King by Willow Wilson. I am so excited about this story. This is a historical fantasy story, which is a combination I always really enjoy. Particularly, this is set in 1491 and follows the last sultan that lived and ruled on the Iberian Peninsula. More specifically, we follow 2 main characters. The first is Fatima, who is a concubine at the court of this sultan, and she has a best friend named Hassan who also lives here, and he is like a beloved and celebrated map maker. And the reason why he's so good at making maps is he kind of has a magical ability to map places he himself has never been to before and kind of bend the rules of reality with his pen. And at the beginning of the story, an envoy arrives from the Spanish monarchy, and it's up to Fatima to basically like host them. And she realizes through interacting with them that they actually are here to represent the Inquisition. And she immediately becomes very nervous and scared for her friend Hassan, whose ability with maps might be viewed as like witchcraft. And from there, Hassan and Fatima set out on a great voyage together, and it just sounds incredible. This author is super celebrated for her first novel. This is actually her second story, and it just feels like something I would love so much, from the concept to the setting. I know it's going to have like fantastic writing, and I also hear it's actually a bit slower. When I was reading reviews, some people said it was kind of slow going, and personally that's a plus for me. I really hope this is like deeply situated in this really interesting historical setting, and I'm curious to see how it's just all going to play out. I'm looking forward to checking out this book by this author. I also really want to read her other book as well. Next up, I picked up a classic that I have not read yet and I really want to rectify, and that is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula Le Guin. And this is considered one of the most celebrated works of science fiction, and in it we follow a lone human emissary who has to travel to this alien planet named Winter. His goal as an emissary is to bring this alien planet into this like larger intergalactic like planetary makeup of governments, but to do this he has to sort of bridge the gap between his own culture and theirs, and their society is distinctly very different than humanity's. It's said to completely embrace the aspects of psychology, society, and human emotion on an alien world. The Left Hand of Darkness stands as a landmark achievement in the annals of intellectual science fiction. Sounds incredible. I can't believe I've never read a book by this author. Hoping again to fix that soon. So $7.99 added to the cart immediately. My last collection of books that I bought today are all more on the literary fiction leaning spectrum. The first is My Year Abroad. I have almost bought this book so many times, and today was the day I finally fell prey and just gave in to my desire to put this book on my shelf. That being said, conceptually speaking, this just sounds so interesting. This story is kind of like a road trip or a trip-centered story following 2 very unlikely characters who begin to work together. The first is a larger-than-life, wildly creative Chinese entrepreneur who's also super, super rich. And he's looking for a very specific role that he needs filled for like a series of meetings and just jobs that he has on the calendar. Enter in our other main character, an average American college student with a good heart, but like minimal aspirations. He begins to travel with this larger than life figure. They attend like business meetings together, but they're also just sort of traveling the world. And it says, how will this journey nourish them? And what will their lives look like when they return? I love the concept of like kind of a modern Odyssey. I feel like this is going to be taking us to a lot of different places. This is said to be electric, funny, dark, and specifically taking on topics like cultural immersion and friendship, which I'm just in general really intrigued by. This was a Pulitzer Prize finalist, so I'm looking forward to checking it out. Next up, I have Furies and Fate by Lauren Groff. Lauren Groff is an author I've been meaning to read for such a long time. I have her other book, which is The Matrix. This is a story composed of apparently many different threads, but specifically centers two individuals within a relationship. Relationship centers two beautiful, tall, enigmatic people who got married at the age of 22, and they're kind of like the envy of all of their friends, and they're viewed as like people who have the perfect marriage. Fast forward 10 years, their relationship is still like very much celebrated, but it says that every relationship has two perspectives, and a relationship is, yes, built on love, but also secrets. I think this story kind of spirals into like really wild directions and deeply examines, again, a specific relationship. This is said to be surprising. It's said to be propelling in terms of its narrative style and quality. It's said to be addicting. I'm just very, very curious about this because conceptually, if I just pick this book up, I'm like, is it a thriller? Are they about to kill each other? But I don't think that's the direction of this at all. I love deep dives on relationships. I also love when stories have multiple threads and different point of views. So I can't wait to read this. This is beloved by many, many people. This made many book lists a few years back when it was released, and I'm finally getting to it myself. And then the last book I picked up today, but again, not the last book that I have for this haul, is There by Tommy Orange. This book is everywhere. Everyone has read and loved this book, and I am so late to the party. I recently had a friend bring this up at our book club meeting, and I was like, okay, it's over. I need to pick up this book and read it. Because I heard structurally that this book is written in one of my favorite ways ever, and that is it has a huge cast of different points of views, and they all have intersecting experience and storylines and wants and needs. Books written in that style always call out to me, but specifically, this is a story of 12 people all on their way to the same powwow for different reasons. They're all in different places in their life. They're all experiencing different levels of emotion, but specifically, this book is very much about the modern Native American experience and kind of tackling different topics and concepts as it relates to personal identity and expression. This book, again, has already been lauded as a modern classic, like a book that needs to be on everyone's reading list, so I decided to buy it for myself. I can't wait to pick this book up. I hear it's very, very emotional, like a story that will for sure make you cry, but I just feel like this could be a new all-time favorite, so I'm so happy to add it to my collection. And the last three books I have to show off are three books that I picked up from Half Price Books about a week or so ago. The first is the Belgrade by David Eddings. This is a bind-up volume 1 of 3 stories, The Pawn of Prophecy, Queen of Sorcery, and The Magician's Gambit. I am trying to read more classic fantasy. I feel like I've read so much modern fantasy, which I love, and I'm going to continue to do, but there are so many stories that are famous like this that I have not gotten to. I read The Daughter of the Forest, which I personally feel like is classic fantasy last year, adored it. I obviously bought The Left Hand of Darkness, which is classic sci-fi, so I'm trying to branch out a bit, if you get my feeling. Fantasy story has a very classic setup. It's set in a world where there is this orb, and as long as the orb is in its proper place, safety, harmony, and everything society would want will be able to be achieved, until one day that orb has gone missing. Enter in our main character, Garyon, who is a simple farm boy who is just kind of existing and living within this place. He obviously soon finds out that he himself has a quest and destiny very much connected to this orb, and I believe from there we watch him set out to try to retrieve this item and return it to its proper place. Again, a classic story that quite literally, according to the back, millions of people have discovered and loved. I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting to this soon. I love the cover. It's like so classic. I love the tones and the color of the whole thing. It's just superb. Next up, I also have Insurrection by Tade Thompson. This is book 2, the first one being Rosewater, a book I read last year, and it was for sure one of the strangest sci-fi stories I have read in a long time, but also one I could not put down. It had so many different elements to it, so when I saw book 2 for only $6.99, it was an auto buy for me. But Rosewater is like a first touch sci-fi-esque story. Basically, a very strange alien thing came to Earth, and it's kind of like this cocoon-esque thing, and it landed in Africa. With its arrival, it basically resulted in the end of human society as we know it, and around this cocoon, a new city sort of created itself. The cocoon has like strange healing abilities, but the consequences and why it has these abilities is completely unknown to human society. And another result that also occurred is with the arrival of this alien thing, some people began to develop kind of supernatural powers, kind of are like mind reading in a way. And we follow a main character who has these abilities, and he notices at the beginning of the book, other people with these abilities are beginning to disappear one by one. This story is also told not in a linear fashion. You're jumping forward and back in time. It is a ride from beginning to end. Absolutely could never guess what in the world is going on. It was weird, but it was captivating. So obviously I want to know where the story is going to take us next, because I already know it's going to be unputdownable. I've read quite a few sci-fi books by him and just have enjoyed all of them. I just feel like he has this electric quality to his prose that will just suck you in immediately. And the last book I have to pick up, I honestly grabbed without reading the synopsis because it was just an author that I enjoy at such a good price, and that is The Pursuit of William Abbey by Claire North. Reading the synopsis now, I'm a little perplexed if this is actually going to be a book for me. This was like, normally I'm so good about checking reviews and Goodreads, but I was like, oh, Claire North hardback for only $9? I'm gonna buy it. But reading the synopsis again, I'm like a little unsure. But basically this follows a man who's cursed in like the 1800s, and you follow the results of this curse through time. But I do generally love Claire North's writing, and I love her inclusion of kind of a bizarre fantasy element to kind of a literary tale. I feel like she does that so well. Alrighty guys, that is my half price books used bookstore book haul. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you soon with another video soon. Goodbye.